Deranged lunatic wielding a knife attacks officer who defends himself, upsetting peaceful rioters in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Mostly peaceful riots broke out in Lancaster, Pennsylvania after a brown man stormed out of an apartment building with a knife, attacking a cop who fled, then turned around with his pistol and shot the criminal dead. I say criminal because that's what he was. Ricardo Munoz, in March of 2019, allegedly slashed and stabbed 2 men, a woman, and a 16-year-old boy. You can see from this still photo of the incident that Munoz is holding a knife. This is with him attacking the cop. The Lancaster police immediately released the body cam footage to try to demonstrate to the public that it was a completely justified shooting. Of course, they rioted anyways because logic and truth are irrelevant. That means that there are going to be innocent citizens without their car. Arson, of course, has gone into effect. Public property has been vandalized, and all the money that you and I contribute into the tax coffers of the municipalities and governments at large, gone, burned up. Surprisingly, Black Lives Matter did not come out in support of the police. They didn't say that they acted rightly against a would-be murderer, but rather totally ignored the fact so as not to interfere with the narrative and the way that they raise all that sweet, sweet moolah from the public. The narrative, of course, being that cops are purely evil and murder innocent black and brown people. So give us cash. Also, and I'm continually surprised by this, given the fact that it's been brought to their attention, they ignore the fact that more white people are killed every year by police than blacks, but you can't say their names because you've never even heard of them. Of course, each individual killing must be investigated based on the context of the events that led up to it. In this case, you have a knife-wielding man attack you. You turn to run. He keeps after you. You turn, boom, and shoot them. But according to BLM, the cop should just lie down on his back, belly exposed, and allow himself to be stabbed to death because he's a cop after all, so he deserves it to begin with. And that's the one way, according to BLM, that we can keep peace in our society. But as the cop had the audacity to value his individual life and going home to his family, righteous rioting ensued despite overwhelming evidence that it was a totally clean shoot. The simple question that I have for you is, what would you do given the same circumstances? Oh, let me be clear. I'm not saying that you assume that you're not a cop. Because, of course, if you're a cop, you just have to lay down and take it, as I previously stated. Death, injury, brain dead, whatever it takes, because this is the way we keep peace in society, and we do not want to incite the nobles and the saints of BLM to issue condemnation of society at large based on your desire to protect yourself. Look, we can deal with this individual case on its own, but I think that it's much better if we take a lower resolution view of events, because it's like the story of the doctor who sees a man drowning in a fast-flowing river. Being a brave man, he jumps in, pulls him to shore, saving him. He barely gets a breath in, and then he sees another person flailing about in the waters. And the doctor, though tired, miraculously also pulls him to shore, saves his life as well. Suddenly, the doctor turns around. There are 2 more people coming downstream. The doctor jumps in and is unable to pull them to safety and drowns himself. You can applaud the doctor for his bravery and, of course, his ultimate sacrifice, but it's my job to go upstream and investigate who exactly is throwing these people into the river to begin with and deal with the problem at its source. Look, I know that I'm going to be encountering resistance. I already have. I spoke with a friend about this, and he tried to conflate this incident with police brutality of the 1980s, stating Same shit, different era. While referencing NWA and their hit lullaby, F the police. You can fill in that F. The idea is already installed into people's minds that police are incredibly brutal, bad actors, and racist. Look, I've had my own run-ins with the police. I've had my head pinned down on the ground and questioned for hours about a crime I didn't commit in a case of mistaken identity. The officers were total assholes in that instance. And if I was black, I'd likely come to the conclusion that their treatment of me was race-based. I was mistreated another time as well. Look, police are not perfect. That's not where I'm coming from. But we have to analyze each incident and determine whether or not it belongs in the systemic racism evidence pile. My friend was all too ready not to allow the facts of this incident, which is being pronounced again as police brutality and yet another police shooting by the mainstream media, interfere with the narrative that he was trying to portray. Facts. They should interfere. And therein lies the problem. This is a narrative that has been set by the education system with the 1619 Project and the enslavement of black people being the centerpiece of American history and the only reason that America has been the most successful country, the nation in the world. This is who we are. We are slavers. That's what makes America great, according to the New York Times in 1619. It's ridiculous. This is the same narrative portrayed by the mainstream media, which feeds their ratings off of the outrage that they create in reporting the various incidences. It's always falsely framed in order to get more viewership because they are beholden to the dollar, not the truth. And it is spurred by politicians, political race grifters who benefit by selling their own wokeness and moral outrage to those who would vote for them. Specifically here, I'm referencing Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren, who in 2019 both claimed in the run-up to the Democratic nomination process, they both claimed that the Michael Brown incident in Ferguson, Missouri was murder. Michael Brown was murdered, they stated. The case was investigated by the Obama Justice Department and found to be a warranted use of force. It's been investigated by the city of Ferguson on a couple of occasions to see if they could drum up a prosecution of the officer in question. And each time, partisan actors went away empty-handed because the facts contradicted the narrative they wanted to follow through on. This is the way the judicial system is supposed to work. And as Kamala Harris is running for president on the Democratic ticket, no matter that it might read Joe Biden atop, she was a former prosecutor. She knows how to read a report that's being sent to her. She knows full well that it wasn't a murder. She is a liar. She is a grifter. And she fuels the false victimhood narrative, and in doing so, sells the public out at large. Her own political ambitions are nothing compared to the truth, and she doesn't mind if her words set America ablaze, because what she is after is far more important, and that is power. See, most people don't have the time to investigate for themselves. They trust the people who are in power to accurately portray what took place. When you have people like Kamala Harris and Elizabeth Warren both calling the Ferguson event a murder, this fuel gets thrown onto the fire of their minds and raises the temperature of the narrative that America is systemically racist and awful for black people. You see, imagine that you have a fire that's simmering, and as you throw more fuel onto it, the temperature naturally rises and the flames start to melt people's brains. The result? The flames that are currently engulfing our buildings and our society. I'm far less angry with the simpletons that are merely reacting to the hypnotization that has taken place with their minds, as compared to those who intentionally fan the flames and stoke the fires of resentment and victimhood. That includes the media, the hateful educators, the critical race theory propagandists, and most of all, the demons who desire to rise from the flames that consume the rest of us, that consume our society, that they intentionally set. Peace and blessings to everybody out there. Please share this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Peace out.